Kala Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem Rakakwadash. Double honors unto the elders and the apostles who taught me this truth. This is your brother Dawad, the real brother beloved, and this is only for the elect.
I want to talk about the biggest and the most important story in the world, the Wuhan coronavirus. This coronavirus is a catastrophe on the scale of Chernobyl for China, but actually it's probably worse than Chernobyl, which was localized in its effect. The coronavirus could result in a global pandemic. While you were all sleeping overnight, the number of diagnosed cases in China increased by 30%. Now, let me be clear, that's not new cases, that is just newly admitted cases. It is probably several orders of magnitude higher than that.
The fear of the Lord tendeth to life, and he that hath it shall abide satisfied. He shall not be visited with evil.
Shalom, Yasserallah. This lesson is inspired by Elder Apostle Gabar, a great millstone. His recent video on the movie Contagion, specifically the coded messaging in the soundtrack. He had asked the Hakim if they found a definition of the latter part of the word contagion, con meaning together and with, to place it in the comment board, and I happened to find a definition at the online etymology dictionary. And while I was watching another elder's video, I believe the elder's name is Yashawamba, I'll place both links in the description box. He went into a verse in Ezekiel that helped connect the dots, for me at least. So I kind of wanted to do a lesson on it to kind of share it with y'all. This is Revelation chapter 6, verse 4, and it reads, "And there went out another horse that was red." We know through the scriptures and through study that that horse is Esau Edom, pursuing the Genesis 27, I believe the 40th verse. That old serpent, the devil, known today as the so-called white man, specifically speaking of America and the global elite, those devils at the top of the food chain on down, from the neon to the peon, from the most notorious to the right down to the proverbial pawn in which Satan does his bidding. And power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and so any who are aligned with America and the wicked, and that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword. Now the horseback off the elder, for lack of a better terminology, being piggyback is definitely not the go-to. We know that Esau's blessing is the sword, which represents his military might, but other examples are his globalization agenda, his idea of spreading democracy throughout the world, the means he solicits to destabilize other nations, his orchestrated attacks on, the globe, of course, and the populace of Americans. His false flags and distractions, his performing in dark arts and ritualistic sacrifices, and for the purpose of this lesson, his attacks using biowarfare. Indeed, the great sword represents thermonuclear warfare, but all those examples of his military prowess lends to the idea that this is the sword he attempts to make America great again. This is Ezekiel chapter 21, verse 9, and it reads, "Son of man, prophesy and say, Thus saith Yahweh, say a sword is sharpened and also furbished." Verse 10, "It is sharpened to make a sore slaughter, it is furbished that it may glitter. Should we then make mirth? It contemneth the rod of my son, as every tree." So let me break it down. Indeed, the coronavirus has run the gambit, being released on the populace in several forms: SARS, MERS, swine flu, bird flu, etc. Now it has been sharpened, meaning perfected to make a sore slaughter, to infect millions in its present form, now labeled COVID-19. Let's spell it out. It's COVID-19, COVID-19. It is furbished that it may glitter, meaning strike terror by paralyzing China and threatening the rest of the world. threatenizing. I said, Eureka, a new word. In any event, this is all done courtesy by Esau Edom, America, being the world's most dangerous terrorist, of course, on those against whom it is drawn and for whom this obvious biological weapon was prepared. This is Ezekiel chapter 21, verse 11. Here is the point, and it reads, "And he hath given it to be furbished, that it may be." Now, the operative word here coming up is handled. Now, when you go into the definition of contagion, it says this: contagion, late 14th century, a communicable disease, a harmful or a corrupting influence. Now, the part of the word that we want is the latter part, which is the tagion, and the definition that it says here is tagger, to touch, from the pi root tag, to touch. Handle, meaning infectious contact or communication. What was glaring to me here was the latter, as I just pointed out. Infectious contact or communication. Now, the elite not only set out to spread this communicable disease, they set out to communicate a sense of fear through their propaganda war machine. Another integral part of their swordsmanship, mainstream media. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm a firm believer in the idea America, Britain, and in association with Israel, including the world's banking cartels, are complicit in this terror attack on China to derail its economy, reduce the global population, of course, which has been an agenda of theirs, bring about martial law, quarantining the masses to finally initiate mandatory vaccination and forced RFID microchipping. This sword is sharpened and it is furbished to give it into the hand of the slayer. That slayer we know in Ezekiel 21:19 to be the king of Babylon, which is Esau Edom, who again is responsible for implementing this biological weapon to be handled in one way or another, infecting those in its radius, initiating the age-old tactic of using fear to subdue the masses. This is Proverbs chapter 29, verse 25, and it reads, "Fear of man bringeth a snare, but whoso putteth his trust in Yahweh shall be safe." Those not in the truth will be easily snared by the new sense of urgency imposed upon them by the government's fear tactics, willingly allowing the powers that shouldn't be to inoculate them, meaning vaccinate them. Those in the faith won't even bat an eye. This is 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7, and it reads, "For Yahweh hath not given us a spirit of fear, not a spirit of erratic impulse to run off and do something stupid like go get a flu shot or take a chip so we can ensure we'll have health coverage. Taking medicine really meant to slowly kill us, but of power, mental and spiritual fortitude, and of love to adhere to his commandments, and of a sound mind, being rest assured our endurance will lead to being saved. The fear of Yahweh is the beginning of wisdom, and wisdom and knowledge being our stability in these end times. Again, the hopeful elect will have nothing to fear. Despite this cunning ploy, America will be destroyed. It's not a matter of if, but when, pursuant to Matthew 24 and 36. Only Yahweh knows. As I said, I'm going to keep this short. This is Revelation chapter 18, verse 8, and I'll close. "Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire." That's thermonuclear destruction. "For strong is Yahweh thy power, who judgeth her." 9. "And the kings of the earth, particularly America's allied nations, who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her, shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning." 10. "Standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, far in 1 hour is thy judgment come." Shalom, Yasharal.
The coronavirus continues to have impacts around the world, and the U.S. military is not immune. This week, officials initiated a 14-day self-quarantine on troops entering South Korea from China and opened a new online portal for updates on the virus. Officials said the risk of infections is low and advised normal prevention precautions, such as washing hands and getting an influenza vaccine. The State Department has issued a do not travel warning for China.